Hello and welcome to my easy to understand guide to the David Guetta music video Titanium with regards to media language and representation. This video is going to be particularly relevant for you if you are studying OCR A-level, so it's currently one of the set texts on that specification. The music video starts with a shot of a young boy crouched down, face down on the floor. And this creates quite a lot of enigma for the audience. It makes us wonder what's going on. He seems quite vulnerable because it's quite a high angle shot. His clothes seem a bit dirty, his face seems a bit dirty, the surroundings look like they've been kind of destroyed or vandalised, there's litter everywhere. So it creates this representation of him as being kind of victimised. Perhaps something has gone wrong, perhaps there's been some kind of attack. Creates quite a lot of sympathy for him from the audience. The slow motion here is designed to make it feel quite dramatic. As the camera tracks him down the hallway, it becomes clear that this is a school, and we can tell that from the kind of design on the walls. The deep focus in this shot allows us to see the teacher as well as the boy, and it draws our attention to the fact that she looks very scared. And she closes the door, which is very, the exact opposite of what you would expect a teacher to do in a kind of dangerous situation. And that creates more enigma. Why is she shutting the boy out? Why is she scared of him? It challenges the idea that adults are often thought of as being protective. The boy is positioned in the middle of the frame, and that means that he's quite loosely framed, and that makes him look smaller and more vulnerable. It also makes him feel isolated, as though he's very alone and that he doesn't have anyone to rely on. He runs past the police car at the front of the school, and that suggests that he's scared of the police. It may suggest that he's done something wrong, and that creates more enigma for him, makes us question who he is and what's happened. The imagery of schools and, panic and fear and police, especially with the lyrics talking about bullets and ricocheting, it really kind of creates this idea of school shootings, and it's that context in America in particular of the fact that there's a huge issue with gun control, and a huge issue in particular with guns being taken into schools. And so these are quite familiar imagery to a lot of audiences who are going to recognise this as a potential school shooting. Of course, one of the issues with basing your narrative around a potential school attack is the fact that in America, this social cultural context is constant. There seems to be another school attack, another piece of gun violence almost every day. And actually, shortly after this video was released, there was an attack on the Sandy Hook High School in America, which was, obviously very devastating. And as a result, a lot of radios actually pulled this track from air to make sure that it didn't offend or traumatise any audiences. The medium close-up of the teacher pointing him out to the police officer now identifies him as being the potential criminal, and that again adds more enigma and starts to represent him as being a little bit more dangerous. We get some very fast-paced shots of him cycling here, and the editing starts to match the pace of the song as well, which is quite conventional. The trombone shot makes it feel as though the background is kind of disappearing away from him, and that's often done to make this kind of feeling of fear, of shock, of recognition. It makes the moment feel quite dramatic and quite scary. It's at this point he seems to enter like the suburbs of America, so we get shots of people running, there's some kind of rows of houses and gardens and grass, and so it kind of feels like everyday suburban America. But also the camera sometimes cuts to being next to him as well, which positions us to be alongside him. So we're kind of simultaneously seeing him both as a threat and also as somebody that we can relate to and that we're told to see as being human as well as scary. When he gets home, he sees on the TV a news report that says that there's been a supernatural occurrence at a school. And that's the first time that this kind of sci-fi supernatural genre is introduced into the narrative. We get some fast-paced shots of him packing his bags, clearly kind of telling us in the audience very easily to recognise that he's going to run away. He throws his teddy bear aside, perhaps suggesting that he doesn't need that anymore. He's growing up, he's not a child, he's maturing, and sees the teddy bear as a symbol of his childhood that he no longer needs. We see lots of shadows through the windows, through the blinds at this point, as though it's kind of people outside the house. We see a shadow of somebody with a gun as well. And that adds tension, adds fear, as we wonder who is outside waiting for him. The fact that he summons his keys through his telekinetic powers just adds to this feeling of him having kind of some sort of supernatural power. When the police officers come in, he's no longer there, but what they do find is his teddies and his toys floating in the air, and this kind of shot of the teddies looming over the police officers and their kind of scared, shocked faces really represents them in a weaker, more vulnerable fashion. And that's something we're not used to seeing in the media. Men, and in particular, men in positions of power like in the police, represented as weak. It's quite unusual. We see this montage of him hiking through nature, escaping and running away, lots of trees, forests, twigs, streams. So getting this idea that he's really run away, he's gone far away from the kind of suburban life. These locations are really isolated and again add to this feeling of him being all alone. The dark, low-key lighting outside at night adds to this sense of fear and tension, and the shadows create a lot of mystery. At this point, we see the torches coming through the darkness, and again, that kind of acts as this shorthand signifier that they're on a search, that they're looking for him. Their masked faces and their uniforms, it keeps their identities hidden and it makes them seem more mysterious and more scary and intimidating. And this acts in binary opposition to the shots, the high angle shots of the boy on the ground, which make him look quite vulnerable and weak by comparison. But right at the end here, it's as though the boy kind of realises that he can't control his power anymore, and he kind of huddles down on the ground, and we get the visual effects of the kind of light exploding from his body and the police officers kind of flying back. And visual effects often make somebody seem very powerful. I think the representation of a young boy seeming quite powerful and able to overpower people in positions of authority, grown adults, is going to be quite appealing to a lot of audiences, particularly young audiences. You know, a lot of young people feel like they have no agency or authority, and that they're often not listened to and not heard, and that they don't have any power. And actually this idea that they could overpower the police, they could have the power to control and even destroy things, is sometimes quite appealing for audiences. There's no performance element from David Guetta or Sia, whose vocals feature on the track. That's quite unusual for music videos. Often artists do feature in their own music videos, but it's not that unconventional for this particular genre. Within the genre of kind of like house dance, often the artists or the DJs don't feature in the video. And I suppose that represents them as being, you know, their image isn't important, it's their music that's important. Of course, the lack of Sia in this music video might also be due to the fact that David Guetta used her vocals without her permission, which is obviously not a great thing to do. She recorded the vocals because she wrote the song for another artist to sing. So she actually wrote it with the intention of being the songwriter and getting someone else to sing it. But David Guetta liked her vocals so much that he just used her vocals on the track without her permission. And she wasn't very pleased by this, obviously. Collaborating with another artist, you know, sampling Sia's vocals on the tracks, then that's a great way of widening your audience, broadening your audience, engaging more fans. As well as the references potentially to films like E.T., there are also quite a lot of intertextual references here to other films like Super 8. The actor who plays the young boy is called Ryan Lee, and Ryan Lee actually starred in the supernatural teen film Super 8. Other people have noticed similarities between this music video and Home Alone, for example. Audiences might recognise intertextual references like this and feel kind of clever that they've recognised them. And it also helps to engage particular audiences as well. So people who might recognise kind of cult 80s movies and other movies that also fall under the kind of supernatural sci-fi genre too. Of course, the music video was put onto YouTube, and that's a great way of bringing in more audience, giving it shareability to try and make it go viral. And it has gotten over 1 billion hits. So that was my easy to understand guide to this music video. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more videos that are going to be relevant for you. And if you would like another video that I don't already have, just leave a little comment below and I'll see what I can do.